Welcome to the 612 Continuity of Learning session. I'll just dig right into it. So as we plan instruction moving forward, we will be focusing instruction on essential standards. And as described earlier, essential standards are a subgroup of power standards for the course that we would have covered during the time of closure. And that we are going to be asking that PLCs plan together using this planning template. Whoops, it forces you to make a copy for your course. Sorry for my dogs barking in the distance. So as you load this document on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, depending on how long it takes you, you will be working within your course PLTs, and those PLTs should be meeting across buildings, so across middle school and high school, so that you can identify essential standards for your course. And as previously described, an essential standard is a subgroup of power standards that you would like to introduce students to as a stepping stone for next year. We know that we won't be able to cover everything. We will need to reduce content. We cannot honor the full pacing we would have expected if we had in-person instruction. So it'll be very important for you guys to think about whether these essential standards you're targeting can be attended to in the time that we have available in the instructional minutes we have aligned to each of our grade bands, and whether or not this standard is feasible to be instructed to within an online learning environment. You will want to make sure that whatever essential standards you choose have somehow been communicated with or calibrated with the next course in your course sequence, so they know what you think should be targeted. And they might have some suggestions on how to focus those targeted essential standards. So you will come together as a PLC, and here's a little lesson plan, but I'll review through it with you. As a course, you will propose different power standards that you think are essential. As you propose those essential standards, you will be writing in what kind of reasoning, a very quick, short summary of why you as an individual or a few individuals within your larger PLC think that standard is important. Your PLC will review through the proposed standards, review through the reasoning, and identify which one of the essential standards you guys will target through now and the remainder of the year. Knowing that you will not be able to cover it all, you're really going to have to fine-tune your list. Once you have fine-tuned your list, your PLC will identify the key essential standards, and depending on the size of those standards, you might be targeting anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, maybe 5 standards, depending on the density of those standards, because we know many standards actually have a lot of content within them. And so you'll be judging how many essential standards based on how rich those standards are. You'll think about how much time each standard will take, and that'll be helped by identifying learning targets for each standard, so that you can think about matching individual lessons and lesson series to specific learning targets that'll then help develop the full understanding of your essential standard. So you will be spending time within your PLCs collaborating on establishing your essential standards. Then, once you have your essential standards, your IL, one of the ILs for your group, will have to submit those by entering a name and link. There's a code for how to name if you're a middle school group, a convention on how to name. It's just slow, my system here. And how you'll name your high school documents. So you will take those documents in which you brainstormed your essentials and identified your essentials, and you'll be linking those documents into this sheet by Wednesday. So again, we'll identify essential standards. You have a planning sheet to help your course work together to identify those standards, and then that sheet should be renamed and linked within this submission chart. As you build your weekly lesson plans, aligned to those essential standards and learning target, you will be specifically talking about what core tasks are important for students to engage in to connect to those essential standards. And again, those core tasks occur within the instructional time expectations for your grade level. You will also be thinking about what reinforcement, enrichment, or intervention tasks you might provide that would be above and beyond the instructional time expectations for your grade level. And those students and parents might identify whether they have time to do those. You do need to communicate these core and extension tasks to families. Again, it forces you to make a copy so that you can use it for yourself. Here's a sample lesson plan template that you can provide. It's very similar to the one we provided for the academic enrichment and reinforcement plan. It just delineates out core tasks from extension tasks and does help provide families and students with expected time expectations and what the purpose of each task type is. It is important to remember that we won't have the same amount of time with students each day that we normally would have. And so this instructional minutes table provides guidelines. And again, as stated earlier in these sessions, we will be targeting minimum and the minimum plus 15 minutes with your extension tasks going beyond that time. You will be working as collaborative teams to build your instructional lesson plans. But we know that as a part of that lesson planning, you want some real time or synchronous experiences for your kids. So each course is expected each week to have 1 to 2 real time synchronous sessions with their classes. So a team came together to build a schedule for middle school and high school to support scheduling of these live sessions because we don't want students or teachers tripping over each other in their time frames. So Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are opportunities for first and second, third and fourth, and fifth and sixth to have synchronous or real-time experiences. Hour 0 and 7 can occur on Fridays. As part of the continuity learning plan, we're also requiring that each teacher has office hours, which is a predictable time for students and or parents to connect with the teacher. That is part of the continuity learning plan guidance documents we got from the state, as well as the MDE recommendations. So we're going to continue to do that. But those office hours only need to be about 15 to 30 minutes. And your synchronous learning experience should stay within, but wouldn't have to use the entire instructional minute expectations for that day. So this area below just provides a little more information around this weekly model that all middle school and high schools will be using. Remember, your lesson plans or lessons for each day need to stay between 15 and 30 minutes for middle school and 20 to 35 minutes for high school. The purple boxes are preserved windows of time to have your synchronous experience with your students. Your synchronous live experiences are intended to be an opportunity for you to deliver content through a mini lesson, offer feedback on understanding or on an assignment, to provide small and large group discussion time, as well as opportunity maybe during which students to students offer feedback and maybe some social emotional learning check-ins. All teachers do need to adhere to this schedule, but do know that your office hours, you could choose instead of doing them on Monday to join them with one of your asynchronous times. So those green boxes, the Monday and Friday, can be adapted based on your building. We just need to make sure that we're spreading out the office hours appropriately so that each hour gets their time and we're not tripping on each other. So buildings can work together to create their own unique schedule for Mondays, but Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday needs to be consistent with this schedule. And office hours are simply a time for people to ask questions. It's a predictable connection time, as well as a time where teachers do not have to plan for. Fridays are days where you can catch up on student parent contacts, sorry. This might be the time where you decide to have PLC meetings, but your PLC meetings can be scheduled at any time during the week that's manageable for your team. There are some instructional resources. We're hoping to put in some that apply to all content areas, but there are some resources specific to content areas. A grading policy is coming soon. We had an action team form around this last week. They met multiple times. It was union leadership, along with building administrators, along with teachers. They have come up with a recommendation. We talked about a variety of models, whether there were models that had some grades, whether there was pass fail or credit or no credit, or credit and incompletes or grades and incompletes. There were a lot of models that we looked at. A recommendation is going forward to the Academic Excellence Committee, which is a subgroup of board members who meet with central office instructional leaders to discuss things connected to instruction. And they will be looking at the proposed grading policy on Tuesday, offering feedback, and that'll determine our next steps on our grading policy. We know that any policy might not be perfect, but we are trying to make a policy that we feel really honors the time we're in, honors the need for students to get feedback, as well as many other conditions. And so we did, as I said earlier, review a lot of models, and we will be communicating this soon to you as well as to families. But as a part of that model, there will be expectations for the teacher of what the teacher will do and what the student will do. And this will be informed further as we have clarity on confirmation of our grading policy. Later in this session, you'll hear more about submitting weekly participation data, but it is all here for you as well. Thank you very much for your time.